I'm going to bring in Jeff Rowe right now. He's former Ted Cruz presidential campaign manager, along with Mark Penn, former chief strategist for Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. Gentlemen, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. So, Mark, we just saw the concert, Beyonce, Jay-Z, LeBron James also coming out for Hillary. Is this going to make a difference for Hillary in Ohio?
Well, I think as you can tell, African-American turnout maybe has been lagging a little bit, and so I think these efforts are last-minute tries to increase that turnout, create some enthusiasm going into the election. I think it's a good move. It could make a difference. Look, I think you're seeing that African-American turnout may be a little bit lower, but Hispanic turnout surging at the same time, probably making up for each other, giving Donald Trump a tough road ahead.
Why do we think African-American voting is down?
We do, based on analysis done by the Wall Street Journal this very day, black early vote turnout is down 7% in Florida and North Carolina compared to not just 2008, but the same point in 2012. And now the Clinton campaign, granted, never expected to exceed it, but exceed what President Obama did in terms of turnout, but they're concerned enough about it that they have all the big guns out, Jay, Beyonce, and the president himself.
Yeah, because Hillary Clinton's unrelatable, and that's been consistent throughout this entire election cycle.
Did she become more relatable with Beyonce and Jay-Z?
Not really. I think it seems a little disingenuous, and unfortunately, I mean, we've seen this election is a vote against people and not for them.
Right.
So you need to convince the African-American voter to vote for her.
Okay, let's talk about the lyrics of Jay-Z's songs. And if you're criticizing Donald Trump for what he said, lewd comments about women, you're campaigning with him?
Get the lyrics out. You're right. It's.
I mean, take a look.
How do you explain that? Yeah. Well, let's talk about independents for a second, Jeff. The latest poll, the Fox News poll, shows that 74% of independents say hearing of the new FBI review, reopening the FBI case, makes no difference in their vote for Hillary Clinton. This coming as it's revealed that Hillary Clinton sent Chelsea info, now deemed classified. Jeff, what about this? Is this a case of information overload? Are voters basically tuning out the emails, even though there may be crimes here?
Well, I think that for a lot of people, their vote is decided. And I think to a certain extent, that's why you see the early vote going so high, is they want their election for them to be over. Let's just get this over with. But to the African-American vote, there's two things. Not just is there an intensity problem, but we see her lagging in the numbers. Typically, Democrats get 90% plus of African-Americans, and the polls that we see across the country have Trump in the teens. So it's a problem not just of enthusiasm, but also it's a problem of actually getting the vote that they need out of that block of voters. So, for independents, I think a lot of this is just decided in their mind, and they want to get it over with.
So, Jeff, I'm curious right now about establishment Republicans. I mean, you worked with Ted Cruz. There's so many establishment Republicans who are saying, I can't vote for Donald Trump. We're even seeing the polls that he's not pulling as many Republicans as even Mitt Romney did. How's he going to make this up?
Well, I think you see those people have been hanging out in what I call two different blocks. Gary Johnson, they said in polling all the way up until very recently that they were going to vote for him, and that's why Johnson was up around 8, 9, 10%. And they also said they were undecided. Mm-hmm. Well, those two numbers have come down. One number that I'd look for in these latest, as the final polls come in, is look at that Gary Johnson number. If that number is below 4, then that's a very good night for Donald Trump. Typically, a libertarian is going to pull about 65% of the vote from the Republican instead of the Democrat. And so as that number drops down, those people are, by and large, going to Trump. And I've seen that number as low as 3 in some states, 2 in other states. And in Pennsylvania, we talk about Trump's lead in Ohio. Pennsylvania just looks just like Ohio demographically. Mm-hmm. You have Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. You have Cincinnati and Cleveland, and a whole bunch of Republicans in between. Those two states really do behaviorally act alike, and Pennsylvania has no early voting. So the reason why we don't see any early voting numbers there.
Yeah, we don't know what happens there.
Fair.
Yeah, and you see a general election where you're going to have turnout in the 60s, and we have no idea who's going to turn out. We can only assume that it's going to look like what election day looks like.
Pennsylvania does feel like a wild card.
I just want to make a super quick point about the Libertarian vote. The Libertarians are still trying to get above 5% so they can get federal funding for the next election cycle, and that's a big point for them. So some of them may not actually go over to Donald Trump because they're so focused on that, but they are upset that their vice presidential candidate is actually stumping for Hillary Clinton, which may embolden them to vote Donald.
Mark, I'm curious, from your perspective, which of the polls has you most concerned? Where are you focused? If you were you know, if you're on Hillary's campaign right now, what are you focused on?
Well, overall, the polls showed in the last week or 10 days a surge for Trump, but that surge seems to be petering out. A lot of the polls are opening back up to 2 or 3 points. So really, she's going to look at Florida. Look, if she wins Florida early on, the night's over. She's got to shore up New Hampshire, because if he takes New Hampshire, that gives him a much better shot. And, of course, North Carolina in the bank. So a lot of these East Coast states could actually be early deciders and that are quite tight. And so I'd keep an eye on those states, be a little less concerned about Ohio, because Ohio does have a 5-point lead for Trump and basically block Trump in some of these other states, which gives him a tough road to hoe here.
Do you buy the whole Bradley effect, though? Do you buy? I mean, there's so many people that say it's a 2 or 3 point race that Trump's going to take it because he overperforms, and all the way through the primaries you saw him overperform in the polls. Do you buy that?
I don't think that he necessarily always overperformed. He didn't overperform in Iowa, for example. I think actually we've been pretty good at pegging his vote. Look, there could be some closing. There could be a couple of points here at the end that switch one way or the other. I think you're looking at whether women are going to break even more heavily. For her, you're looking at whether Latinos are going to come out in greater numbers because he's angered them, and you're looking at whether he can pull out more white men. Those are the 3 big factors going here. And can African American turnout be not a historic record, but be second in terms of history?
I've tried to read all of the kind of modeling that they do on the internet, whether it's 538, but also the upshot on the New York Times site. I just wanted to say this because I thought it was interesting. They give Hillary Clinton an 85% chance of winning, Donald Trump 15%, but they point out that a victory by Donald Trump remains possible. Clinton's chance of losing is about the same as the probability that an NFL kicker misses a 37-yard field goal.
Wow.
So for any NFL, for any football fan, they can kind of get their head around that.
How is she? How much panic is there in the party, Mark, about stories like the Clinton Foundation? And now we know that Clinton has confirmed that the foundation got $1 million gift from the Qataris while she was Secretary of State.
Look, I think you can see this has been a huge concern. I think all these stories have depressed her vote. I think without these stories, she would be ahead 10 or 15 points. In your poll, she's trailing Donald Trump in honesty, although I note your poll has 40% Republican and 40% Democrat, so it's got a higher number of Republicans than maybe some of the other samples you've had. But yes, of course, this is a big concern. This is the main thing, I think, holding her back from what would have been otherwise a landslide victory here, rather than, I think, being 2 or 3 points ahead.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Mark Penn, Jeff Rowe, good to see you both, gentlemen. Thank you so much.